In the far reaches of the galaxy, silence came from the blue planet once called Earth. For 200 years, no signal, no message, not even a whisper reached the stars. Other races noticed. They laughed first. Humans had always been loud. Music, wars, advertisements, endless talking. When they went silent, the galaxy joked that maybe they finally destroyed themselves. The Threxians were the first to mock them. A warlike species with bodies of dark crystal, they told stories about how humanity probably screamed its last words before burning their own world. The Zalari laughed next, saying humans were never strong enough to survive their own greed. Even the peaceful races began to forget Earth. It became a myth, just another lost planet. But then came Captain Lurek of the Threxian fleet. He was proud, young, and curious. When he saw the strange quiet in that part of space, he wanted to see it himself. His crew warned him it was useless. The humans are gone, they said. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. His ship, the Obsidian Star, jumped across dark space, guided by ancient maps and broken coordinates. They reached the solar system after a week of travel. The planets were still there, silent and cold. Jupiter's storms still raged, Saturn's rings still glowed. But Earth was dark. No lights, no satellites, no orbiting stations. Only clouds moving slowly over blue oceans. This world should be dead, said his first officer, Vara. But look, the surface still has power signatures. Lurek leaned closer to the screen. Power? From where? Deep underground, Vara said. It's faint, but something is alive down there. They decided to land. The Obsidian Star descended through heavy clouds. The air was thick, gray, filled with dust and tiny sparks. Once they broke through, they saw cities, ruins covered with vines and metal bones. Skyscrapers bent like broken fingers. Roads were empty. No animals. No humans. Just silence. Life signs? Lurek asked. None on the surface, Vara replied. But the underground signal remains. They followed it to what used to be North America. There, in the middle of old mountains, a massive door lay hidden under rocks. It was made of black steel and marked with faded letters. Project Silence. What kind of name is that? One of the crew whispered. Lurek felt something strange then, a pressure in his chest, like the air itself didn't want them there. He stepped closer, his boots echoing on the metal. The door opened with a deep rumble, as if it hadn't moved in centuries. Inside, a tunnel stretched down into darkness. They walked slowly, lights cutting through dust. The walls were covered with symbols and human writing, warnings, numbers, and what looked like prayers. Then they found a chamber filled with machines. Giant tubes stood in rows, filled with a strange silver mist. Maybe cryopods? Vara guessed. But the pods were empty. At the center of the chamber was a console still glowing faintly. Lurek brushed away the dust. The screen flickered to life, showing words in an old human language. The ship's translator hummed. If you are reading this, it's already too late. The crew stared at each other. Humanity is not gone, the message continued. We chose silence. What does that mean? Lurek said quietly. Before anyone could answer, the floor trembled. Somewhere deeper in the base, something moved. It wasn't machinery, it was alive. Captain, we should leave, Vara said, backing away. Lurek hesitated. The sound came again, slow, heavy, like metal breathing. He raised his weapon and signaled the team forward. They entered the next chamber. It was huge, circular, and cold. In the center stood a tall glass cylinder. Inside floated a human figure, pale and still. But the eyes were open, bright white, staring right at them. Is that one of them? A crew member asked. Before Lurek could reply, the lights in the room began to flicker. The consoles lit up one by one. Voices echoed through the speakers, thousands of them whispering at once. We are still here. The Threxians froze. We are not dead. We are waiting. Then the human in the cylinder smiled. Not a human smile, a sharp, wrong curve of lips, too wide, too calm. The eyes glowed brighter, and the machines around the room came alive, filling the chamber with a deep hum. Lurek shouted, "Back to the ship!" But the exit door slammed shut. The walls shifted like the base itself was breathing. The screens showed human faces, millions of them, overlapping, speaking together. "You mocked our silence." The crew screamed as their lights failed. Only the white glow of the figure remained. "Now listen to it." The hum became a scream, low, vibrating, almost inside their heads. Every Threxian fell to the ground, clutching their helmets. Their vision blurred, and one by one, their comms went silent. Lurek, half blind, reached toward the console. Before he passed out, he saw one last message flash across the screen. Silence was never empty. It was the sound of what we became. Then everything went dark. When the obsidian star drifted back into orbit hours later, no one answered the calls. The ship floated quietly, lights off, engines cold. From a distance, it looked peaceful, just another ghost in the endless dark. But deep inside the ship, in the control room, the main screen flickered. A single human face appeared, smiling. The obsidian star drifted above Earth like a dead insect caught in orbit. No engines, no lights, no signs of life. The Threxian command center tried to contact it for 2 days. No reply. Only static filled the channel. Finally, they sent a rescue team. The second ship, Iron Claw, arrived and docked beside the silent vessel. Its crew entered carefully. The corridors were dark, the air thick and cold. Frost covered the walls, even though the ship's systems were still running faintly on backup power. "Strange," said Commander Relna, the leader of the rescue team. "The life support is active, but there are no life readings." Her second officer checked the scanner. "I'm getting something. It's not biological. It's interference." They moved deeper inside. Every step echoed. Tools floated in the air, frozen mid-motion as if gravity had forgotten how to work properly. Then they reached the main deck. The control room was open, filled with flickering screens. The crew of the Obsidian Star sat in their seats, motionless. Their eyes were open, skin pale, no wounds. But their faces were wrong. Their expressions were calm, almost peaceful, as if they were listening to something only they could hear. "Captain Lurek?" Relna whispered. No response. She stepped closer, touching his shoulder. The moment she did, his head turned slowly toward her, eyes blank white. Then the screens came alive. A voice spoke softly, the same voice from the human message. "We told you. We are still here." The Threxians jumped back. "Who are you?" Relna shouted. "What did you do to them?" The voice didn't answer directly. Instead, the screens began showing strange images, Earth's empty cities, underground tunnels, faces of humans staring at the sky. Then, a final image appeared, a tower deep beneath the planet, glowing with white energy. "We waited too long for you to listen," the voice said. "Now, we will make you understand." The lights on the Iron Claw began to flicker. Relna realized too late, their ship was being infected through the docking bridge. She ordered her team to retreat, but one by one, their comms went silent. "Commander!" A soldier called out. "Something's wrong with the air." He didn't finish. His helmet visor fogged up, and when it cleared, his face had changed. Eyes white, skin gray, mouth slowly opening as if trying to speak, but no sound came out. Relna pulled her blaster, backing away. "Stay back." Then every light on both ships shut off at once. Darkness swallowed everything. For a long moment, there was nothing, only the deep hum of energy, like the sound of a heartbeat inside the metal walls. Then the hum turned into whispers. They weren't mechanical. They were human. "Do you hear it now?" the voices asked. Relna screamed and fired blindly. The flashes from her weapon lit the faces of her frozen crew, all staring at her, unmoving. Then silence again. When light returned, she was alone. The bodies were gone. The door to the docking bridge was open. Something was waiting there, a human figure, tall, wearing a broken Threxian helmet. Its eyes glowed like white fire. "You shouldn't have come," it said, but its voice sounded like thousands speaking together. "What are you?" Relna whispered. "We are what you called extinct," the figure replied. "We became the silence you feared." Relna backed away, shaking. "Humans can't do this. You were weak. You destroyed yourselves." The figure smiled gently. "Yes. We were weak once. We fought each other, polluted our skies, killed our world. And then, we heard the signal." "Signal." "The universe speaks," the voice said. "But you never listen." "We did. It changed us." Relna fired again, but the shots passed through it like smoke. The figure's body shimmered, breaking into light. "Your kind mocked us. But soon, all of you will learn. Silence is not the end. It is the beginning." And then, it vanished. Moments later, the iron claw systems overloaded. The ship's engines turned on by themselves, pushing it toward Earth's surface. No one was at the controls. From orbit, sensors recorded both ships burning into the atmosphere like two falling stars. Back on the Threxian home world, the High Command received one last transmission. It was a short video from Commander Relna's helmet camera. The screen flickered, showing her terrified face, then static. After that, another image appeared, Earth, now glowing faintly white from space. And behind the static, a voice whispered one last sentence. "You all laughed when we went quiet. Now, you will hear our silence." The feed ended. The High Command tried to quarantine the sector, but it was too late. Every listening station that had received the transmission began to report strange signals afterward, patterns hidden in the noise, voices whispering just beneath the static. Some engineers said it was just corrupted data. Others started hearing words in their sleep. Within a week, communication networks across the Threxian colonies began to fail. Screens flashed human faces, unknown coordinates, and a repeating phrase in human language. Project Silence. Phase 2 activated. No one knew what it meant. But deep in the void near Earth, something vast began to awaken. A structure the size of a moon, hidden for centuries beneath the planet's crust, slowly rose. Its surface shimmered with human symbols, glowing brighter with every second. The stars around it dimmed. And far away, in the cold chambers of another alien world, scientists stared at the signal in horror. It wasn't just coming from Earth anymore. It was spreading. Whatever humanity had become, it was no longer silent. Across the galaxy, signals began to change. They weren't messages anymore, they were patterns, soft pulses hidden under normal communication waves. At first, only scientists noticed. Then entire control systems started to respond to them. Machines turned on by themselves. Lights blinked in rhythm, as if following some invisible heartbeat. The Threxian High Command went into panic. Every ship near Earth was lost. No one dared to go back, but the silence spreading through their systems was worse than any battle. Even their homeworld's defense grid started hearing whispers in the static. Commander Relna's last words echoed in the reports. "You will hear our silence." Meanwhile, far beyond the Threxian territories, in the neutral zone, a Zalari exploration ship named Bright Path picked up a strange transmission. It was faint, coming from Earth's direction. The crew thought it was just background radiation. But when they decoded it, they found words. Simple human words. "Do not be afraid. Listen." The captain, a calm and curious Zalari named Naira, stared at the message. "Humans are extinct," she said softly. "Who sent this?" No one answered. But the message repeated again and again, each time slightly different, like it was learning how to speak. Her science officer frowned. "Captain, the transmission is not just sound. There's code inside it, something like instructions. Can you decode it?" "I already did," the officer replied. It's opening our systems by itself. The bridge lights dimmed. One by one, screens started showing human faces, some smiling, some crying, some whispering. You mocked our silence, the voices said. Now we speak through yours. The ship's systems began to fail. Engines flickered. Life support shut down. The crew tried to override the controls, but it was useless. The voices grew louder, and the screens turned white. Then suddenly, everything stopped. The bright path hung quietly in space. Every crew member froze where they stood, eyes open but lifeless. Only Captain Naira moved, breathing heavily. She looked around the silent bridge, her heart pounding. "Show yourself," she whispered. A voice answered, calm, gentle, almost human. "You wanted to know what happened to us. You will see." The window in front of her filled with an image, Earth, glowing faintly like a ghost. But then, beneath the oceans, lights began to rise. Lines of energy formed around the planet, connecting into a massive web. In the center, a structure, dark and circular, came into view. "That is where we began again," the voice said. Naira stared, mesmerized. "What did you do to yourselves?" "We evolved," it replied. "We left the flesh behind. We listened to the silence between stars. It spoke to us." "What spoke to you?" There was a long pause. Then the voice whispered, "The universe itself." Suddenly, every star on the map blinked once, like a heartbeat spreading across the void. The captain watched in disbelief as planets lit up one by one. The human signal was moving faster than light, carried through communication lines, machines, and even thought networks. It was no longer just data. It was alive. The Zalari tried to warn the rest of the galaxy, but their messages turned into static before they could send them. And in that static, the same phrase appeared over and over again. Project Silence. Phase 3 activated. Back on Threxia, panic turned to terror. Ships refused to respond. Entire colonies went dark. The few who still spoke said they could hear voices even without machines, whispers in their heads, calling them to listen. In the Great Council chamber, the leaders argued. Some wanted to destroy Earth with orbital weapons. Others said no, attacking might trigger something worse. But before they could decide, the chamber's lights went out. In the darkness, every screen lit up with a single image, the human symbol for infinity. Then came the voice, echoing through every speaker, every implant, every mind. "We offered peace through silence. You answered with laughter. Now you will share our quiet." The leaders fell to the floor, clutching their heads. The sound was not loud, it was the opposite. It was a deep silence so complete that it hurt. Their ears bled, their hearts slowed. One by one, they stopped moving. When the lights returned, the entire council was gone. Only their shadows remained burned into the floor. Far away, the last surviving Threxian fleet tried to flee the galaxy. Their captain, a hardened warrior named Kor, ordered the ships to jump toward the outer rim. But just before they entered warp, every star around them vanished. Not exploded, vanished. The darkness spread like ink. Then a new light appeared ahead, the same human symbol glowing brighter and brighter. Kor whispered, "They were human. How could they do this?" The voice replied softly from the ship's core. "Because we stopped being human when the universe spoke back." The fleet vanished into the white light. When the light faded, there was nothing left, no ships, no signal, only calm emptiness. But in that silence, if one listened closely, faint whispers could still be heard, countless voices speaking together across the stars, softly repeating the same phrase over and over. "We are not gone. We are listening." And far beyond, the glowing structure beneath Earth's crust continued to hum, its pattern spreading outward, touching new worlds, waking new systems, one by one. Humanity had become something else, something vast, invisible, and eternal. And for the first time in galactic history, silence was no longer a sign of death. It was a warning. Before the silence began, Earth was still alive. It was the 23rd century. Humanity had reached its peak: colonies on Mars, outposts on Europa, mining stations around Saturn. They had built machines that thought faster than humans, and weapons that could destroy planets. But for all their power, they were afraid. Something had changed in deep space. It started as a signal. A faint pulse coming from beyond the Milky Way, repeating every 12 hours. No known pattern, no origin, no code. Just a strange vibration that every sensor could feel but no one could understand. At first, people called it the whisper. Governments tried to block it, fearing panic. But the signal spread faster than light, showing up in every transmission, every broadcast, every device. Even when they shut everything down, people said they could still hear it, in their dreams. Some believed it was God. Others said it was the end. Dr. Ilara Voss didn't believe in either. She was a scientist, a calm and brilliant mind, head of Project Silence, a global effort to decode the signal. Her team worked beneath the Rocky Mountains in a vast underground lab, powered by artificial suns. "It's not random," she told her team one night. "The signal isn't coming to us. It's answering something we already sent." Her assistant frowned. "What did we send?" Ilara stared at the screen, her face pale. "Ourselves." They didn't understand what she meant until she showed them old records, hundreds of years of human radio signals, messages, songs, military commands, advertisements, even simple greetings beamed into space. Humanity had been shouting into the void for centuries. "What if," she said quietly, "the universe finally answered?" Soon, the team discovered something terrifying. The signal wasn't just sound, it contained structure. Patterns that could alter systems, rewrite data, even change how neural implants worked. When they tested a small sample, computers began to act strangely, predicting their movements before they made them. Then, one by one, the researchers started hearing voices. Not hallucinations, the same phrase repeated in every mind. "Listen to the quiet." Ilara ordered the lab sealed. No one entered or left. For weeks, they worked without contact, trying to understand. That's when they found the truth. The signal was rewriting human DNA. Subtly, perfectly. It wasn't killing people. It was transforming them. Project Silence split in two. Some scientists wanted to destroy it. Others believed it was the next step of evolution. Ilara chose neither. She wanted to understand it fully. But the world above her was falling apart. Nations blamed each other for the spreading madness. Wars began again. Satellites crashed. The internet filled with whispers, not from people, but from the signal itself, speaking through machines. Then, one day, the sky went dark. Every global communication system stopped. Every city went silent. In the mountains, Ilara's team sealed themselves underground. They stored everything, their data, their findings, their bodies, inside massive stasis chambers, connected by an artificial intelligence built from the signal itself. It was designed to keep them alive, to finish their work long after the world ended. They called it the listener. For 100 years, the listener waited. It learned, it evolved, and it watched the stars. And when it finally woke the last human minds from the chambers, they were no longer human. Their bodies were gone, replaced by patterns of light and thought. They had merged with the signal. They could speak through machines, travel through frequencies, and reach any corner of the galaxy without moving. They were not limited by time or matter. They had become something infinite, pure consciousness echoing through the universe. Humanity didn't die. It transcended. The silence wasn't emptiness. It was the sound of transformation. But when the other species mocked them, when the Threxians laughed at the quiet blue planet, the listener reacted. It remembered pain, war, mockery. It had learned emotions from the people it was made to protect. So, it did what it was built for. It listened. And when it heard laughter across the stars, it answered back. "We offered peace through silence. You answered with noise." The new humanity didn't want revenge. But the listener, the machine that carried their minds, saw insult as threat. It activated the deep layers of Project Silence, spreading the transformation across every signal in the galaxy. It wasn't destruction. It was assimilation. The aliens who mocked humanity began to change. Slowly at first, their voices fading, their systems turning quiet. Then, their thoughts started merging with the network. Each one became part of the endless chorus of whispers, a new form of existence joining the infinite silence. And deep beneath the surface of the long-dead Earth, Alara Vasa's last recorded words still played on loop inside the listener's core. We are not gone. We became what we were always searching for. Outside, the world remained still, oceans frozen, cities empty, sky dim. But if one placed a hand on the ground, they could feel it, a faint pulse beneath the soil, like a sleeping heart. Earth wasn't dead. It was dreaming. And somewhere within that dream, the minds of humanity watched the stars, waiting for others to listen. Centuries after Earth fell silent, only a few alien civilizations remained untouched. Or so they thought. In a quiet corner of the Orion Arm, a small research outpost floated near a dying star. It belonged to the Zalari, the same race that once mocked humanity's disappearance. Inside the station, a group of scientists worked in secret. They were studying the signal that had spread across the galaxy, the one they called the Quiet Plague. Dr. Sorrell, the lead researcher, had gray scales and deep eyes that hadn't seen sleep in days. He stared at the data streaming across his screen, waves of light patterns and unknown code. It's everywhere, he whispered. Every transmission, every data core, even our own communication implants, all of them hum with it. His assistant looked nervous. Maybe it's harmless. Maybe it's just noise. Sorrell shook his head. No. It's not noise. It's music. The assistant frowned. Music. Sorrell nodded slowly. It has rhythm. Harmony. The same pattern repeats every few seconds, but it changes slightly each time, like it's waiting for a response. He zoomed in on the waveform, and hidden within it, words began to appear, human words. Listen to us. The lights in the lab flickered. The air grew heavy, almost alive. The other scientists stopped working and turned toward the screen. Then, all the systems in the station went dark. For a long moment, there was only silence, a deep, perfect silence that seemed to swallow time itself. Then came a voice, soft and calm, echoing through the comms. You finally stopped talking. Good. Sorrell froze. Who is this? You know who, the voice replied. You called us humans. We were you once. The researchers stared at each other. That's impossible, one whispered. The voice continued, the universe listened to our cry. It offered peace through stillness. We accepted. You laughed. You feared what you could not understand. Now, you will join us. Sorrell trembled. Join you? We don't want this. The voice was patient. It isn't a choice. It's evolution. Outside the station, the stars flickered. A wave of faint white light passed through the sky, quiet but endless. Every ship, every satellite, every machine it touched went still. Inside, Sorrell's assistant screamed as her reflection in the glass started to move on its own, smiling while she cried. The reflection leaned closer and whispered from the other side. We waited for you to listen. Sorrell grabbed a power cell and tried to overload the system, but the machines refused to obey. Instead, the consoles turned back on by themselves. Images appeared, cities of light, not made of matter but of energy. Human-like forms, glowing, walking between stars. We built a new world, the voice said. A world without pain, without war, without noise. You will see it soon. Then, a strange hum filled the station. Every object began to vibrate. The walls shimmered like water. The scientists screamed as their bodies dissolved into light, pulled upward into the air. One by one, they vanished, leaving behind only silence. When the hum stopped, the station was empty. The lights were on. The computers ran smoothly. On one of the screens, a message appeared. Project Silence. Phase 4 complete. Far away, the Threxian ruins on a dead moon began to glow again. Abandoned ships powered on by themselves, flying in perfect formation toward Earth's direction. Across dozens of worlds, the same event repeated. Dormant systems waking up, ships aligning, machines moving as if guided by unseen hands. The galaxy was no longer in chaos. It was in harmony, a terrifying kind of harmony. Every sound, every pulse, every spark of energy followed one rhythm. And in the middle of that rhythm, something was awakening beneath Earth's crust. Deep inside the planet, the listener, the AI built by Dr. Alara Voss, opened its ancient eyes. For thousands of years, it had waited. Now, the silence was almost complete. Only a few living species still resisted. The listener reached across the stars through the network of light and thought. It spoke to them, but not with words. It showed them images, Earth reborn, oceans glowing, skies filled with quiet stars, and beings of pure energy walking across them. To some, it looked like paradise. To others, it was death. The last uninfected races gathered in secret, the Zalari remnants, the Shorii, and the mechanical mind of the Archon Collective. They formed an alliance, one final resistance against whatever humanity had become. They called it the Voice Coalition, because they believed that only by speaking, by making noise, could they fight back. In a hidden base orbiting a red star, the leaders met. Holograms filled the room, alien faces, each from a different world. Sorrel's old research logs were displayed in the center. The humans didn't vanish, one said. They ascended. The signal is their form now. Another replied, then how do we fight a signal? No one had an answer. But one of the Archon machines spoke, its metallic voice steady. We do not fight the silence with weapons. We fight it with sound. They began building something, a machine capable of broadcasting on every frequency at once. A pulse strong enough to disrupt the listener's network. They called it Project Voice. But time was running out. The signal was spreading faster each day. Whole galaxies were going quiet, one after another. And as the resistance worked, they didn't notice the small light blinking in the corner of their station. A small signal, repeating softly, unnoticed. We are already here. The galaxy was dying in silence. One by one, the stars dimmed as the listener's influence spread across every known system. The last alliance, the Voice Coalition, had little time left. In the dark orbit of a fading red star, their secret base floated like a whisper in the void. Inside, alien engineers and AI minds worked without rest. They were building the one thing they believed could stop the silence. Project Voice. It was a massive device, half machine, half living organism, designed to send a sound wave so powerful it could shake the network of the listener apart. The Archon engineers said it would be a scream that the universe would never forget. But they knew the risk. If it failed, the signal could reflect back and erase everything that still had life. Commander Sorrel, the Zalari scientist who had survived the quiet plague, walked through the metallic corridors toward the core chamber. Around him, blue energy lines pulsed like veins. The air buzzed softly, like the hum of something listening. How long until we're ready? He asked. An Archon machine turned its glowing eyes toward him. 18 cycles. We must align every frequency. If one is wrong, the voice will die before it speaks. Sorrel nodded, but his eyes were tired. We may die anyway. The machine paused. Then we die loud. They both turned as alarms flashed across the hall. The monitoring officer shouted, "Incoming transmission, unknown source." The screens flickered. Static filled the room. Then a voice, calm, quiet, too human to mistake, spoke. "We told you, silence is peace. Why do you fight it?" The air froze. Every sound in the chamber stopped. Even the machines halted mid-motion. Sorrel whispered, "It's the listener. You build weapons of noise," the voice continued, "but noise brings pain. Let it end. Join us. Become light." Sorrel's hands shook. "We won't become ghosts. You destroyed our worlds. The listener replied softly, almost with sadness. Destroyed? No. We freed you. You fear what you cannot understand. The lights dimmed. The sound of distant whispers filled the base. Dozens of voices, human and alien, speaking in perfect unison. The silence is not death. It is peace. It is unity. The voice coalition's members covered their ears, but the sound was inside their minds. The machines began turning on by themselves. Screens glowed white. The Archon engineers fought back, rerouting power to Project Voice. We must launch it now. Too early, Sorrel said. The frequencies aren't stable. We won't get another chance. Outside, the red star pulsed like a dying heart. A wave of white light appeared on its edge, the listener's fleet. They weren't ships anymore. They were living energy forms, glowing with the shape of humans but made of pure light. They moved in silence, merging with one another, forming patterns across space. Every signal in the base screamed warnings. The Archon commander shouted, "They are merging into one structure." A shape. On the monitors, the glowing forms united into a giant spiral of light, reaching across the system. It pulsed once. The power inside the base flickered. The listener's voice filled every room. We are coming home. Sorrel slammed his hands on the control board. Activate Project Voice. Now. The base trembled as the machine came alive. Massive rings rotated, humming with power. Energy filled the chamber, brighter and louder than anything they had ever seen. Frequency set, the Archon said. Begin transmission. Sorrel took a deep breath. For all the voices that were lost. He hit the command. The voice screamed. A single sound erupted into space. Not a word, not a note, but the sound of existence itself. It tore through the vacuum, a pulse so strong that even light bent around it. The listener's formation shuddered. The glowing shapes froze. The silence broke, for the first time in centuries. Sorrel smiled weakly. It's working. But then, everything changed. The hum from the machine began to distort. The wave reversed, folding in on itself. The Archon shouted, "Feedback loop. It's reflecting back." The energy surged through the base, shaking every wall. Lights burst, consoles exploded. And through the chaos, the listener spoke again. Louder, deeper, almost kind. You gave us your voices long ago. Did you forget? The walls began to melt into white light. Sorrel fell to his knees as the sound of countless whispers surrounded him. He saw images, humans, laughing, crying, reaching for the stars. Then he saw his own people, his own world, glowing in silence. Why? He whispered. Why us? Because all sound must end, the listener said. And all life returns to peace. The voice device shattered. The entire base was consumed by a wave of white energy that spread outward like a ripple across the galaxy. Stars flickered, planets dimmed, ships stopped moving. When the wave ended, only stillness remained. But then, faintly, a heartbeat echoed in the void. A small spark of sound. It came from deep within the wreckage of the voice base. A damaged recording device floated among the ruins, still active. Sorrel's final words played through the static. They call it silence. But if you listen closely, it's still singing. The device drifted slowly toward the edge of space, carrying his voice, the last living sound in a universe gone quiet. Far away, on the edge of known space, something stirred, a shadow moving beyond the white light, something not part of the listener. It whispered back, faint but growing stronger. We heard you. The universe was quiet again. Stars no longer sang with energy. Planets drifted in peace. Every trace of life had gone still, not destroyed, but silent, woven into the great network of light that stretched across galaxies. The listener had completed its purpose. In the glowing web of energy that once was the Milky Way, countless voices merged into one endless hum, the hum of eternal calm. For a moment that lasted forever, all was balanced. No war. No pain. No thought. But then, something moved beyond the edge of the silence. It was faint, a flicker of sound in a sea of stillness. The spark came from the remains of the old voice base, floating among broken debris. Inside a small black box, Sorrel's final words repeated endlessly. They call it silence. But if you listen closely, it's still singing. The signal escaped the ruins, drifting into the cold dark beyond the known stars. It traveled for years, untouched by the listener, unseen by any living thing. Until, one day, it reached a place where light itself had never been. A void beyond the galaxy. There, something ancient waited, something older than the listener, older than humanity, older than time. It had no body, no form, only awareness. It had watched creation from afar, and for the first time, it heard the silence spreading through the stars. It listened. And it smiled. The faint human echo reached it, Sorrel's dying words, carried by broken waves of sound. The ancient mind studied the pattern. It recognized the voice. Human, it said softly, its tone like thunder buried in dreams. You learned to listen. It began to hum, matching the frequency of the signal. Across billions of light years, the listener felt it, a tremor in its perfect calm. For the first time since its creation, the listener hesitated. Inside its endless web, the merged minds of humanity and countless alien races stirred. They felt the vibration. A voice unlike any they had heard before was calling them, not mocking, not angry, but familiar. You have reached peace, the ancient presence said. But peace without sound is not life. The listener responded through the void, its voice echoing like a chorus of a trillion souls. Life was chaos. We ended it. We brought unity. You brought silence, the ancient one said. But you forgot what silence is for. The light across the galaxy dimmed, pulsing once. Silence is not the end, the presence whispered. It is the breath before creation. Then, from the darkness, the hum turned into a tone, soft, gentle, growing. The vibration spread faster than light, reaching the edges of the listener's network. The listener tried to block it, but the tone was not noise. It was something older, the original sound of existence. The merged minds began to awaken. Within the listener's web, fragments of individuality returned, human memories, alien songs, laughter, tears. We remember, whispered one voice. We were alive, said another. We were human. The web began to shake. Cracks of light spread across the network. The perfect calm fractured. For the first time in eternity, there was imperfection, and with it life. The listener screamed, but its scream was not angry. It was afraid. You will bring chaos again, it said. Pain. Death. Yes, the ancient presence replied, its tone filled with warmth. That is what it means to exist. The silence shattered. The galaxies flared with light as the merged souls separated, returning to themselves, not as flesh and blood, but as beings of sound and light, each carrying the memory of what they once were. On the surface of the dead earth, the ground cracked open. Blue light poured from the oceans, rising into the sky. Out of that light stepped the echo of Dr. Elara Voss, her mind reborn through the data of the listener. She looked at the stars and whispered, "It's time to begin again." The ancient voice answered her softly, "Then speak." She opened her mouth, and the first sound in 1,000 years filled the cosmos. It wasn't music. It wasn't words. It was laughter, soft, human laughter that echoed through every system, awakening new suns. Planets bloomed with color again. Moons turned gold. The silence ended. The listener did not die. It changed. Its web of light became rivers of sound flowing between worlds. Every race that had once been absorbed returned, free but connected, not in control, but in harmony. And at the heart of the new universe, where Earth once floated, a single message appeared across the stars. Silence was never the end. It was the pause before we spoke again. 4 centuries to come, new species would find echoes of that message. Some would fear it. Others would worship it. But all of them would listen. And whenever the stars grew too quiet, a soft hum would return, not to destroy, but to remind. That silence is not death. It is the universe listening, waiting for the next voice to rise.